Good morning, everybody. You are currently listening to a Tall Girls podcast hosted by a tall girl named India. Now, today I wanted to talk about tall women and negative self-talk. Okay, now, negative self-talk is something that's done on almost a daily basis. I would say not necessarily every day, but almost every day, and even sometimes multiple times a day, whether we realize it or not. And honestly, I feel like that's definitely the scary part, that sometimes we don't even realize it. Often we subconsciously do it. We think more times than not, we're thinking it in our heads. We say it to ourselves in our heads rather than out loud, and we don't even realize that we're thinking it to ourselves. And I feel like social media definitely plays a big role in this. And I actually discussed this in one of my earlier episodes and actually on my Instagram account too. So if you don't already, follow me on my socials at A Tall Girls Podcast for more tall girl tips and, of course, relatable tall girl content and funny stories and stuff. They'll be linked down below so you can check it out after you listen to this episode. Okay? Now, what does negative self-talk look like? Clearly, negative self-talk and even self-talk in general is different for everyone, but I'm going to give a more general overview, specifically geared toward my tall ladies. So let's say you're looking for some shoes. You're looking through shoes and you see these nice, gorgeous pair of 7-inch stiletto heels. I don't know why 7-inch stilettos came into my mind, but hey, whatever. 7-inch stiletto heels. You see them and you're like, oh my gosh, I really, really want these. These are so cool. This will look so nice with my golden dress or whatever. But then you say, oh, I'm too tall to wear those. That is an example of practicing negative self-talk. Or another example, if you have a crush on a guy or a girl and they happen to be shorter than you, and you say, oh, they won't like me because I'm too tall, or they'll think that I'm too tall for them. That's another example of you practicing negative self-talk. Let's say you're shopping for clothes and you say to yourself, oh, those pairs of pants or that t-shirt or that dress is not going to look good on me because of my long limbs. You are practicing negative self-talk. And let's say at any point in time you find yourself saying, oh, I feel so out of place, or oh, why can't I look like that person? Yes, you are practicing negative self-talk. All of those are examples of negative self-talk. And as humans, we are all guilty of doing that, okay? Even me. Even I'm guilty of doing that because, yes, I'm a tall girl and I do struggle with how I identify with my height. I do struggle with how I look in certain things and how people perceive me. So, yes, even I struggle with it. We all do. We're all human. It's just a human experience to go through it. And that's why today I wanted to focus on how to get rid of this negative behavior. So I want to say the first way for sure is acknowledging this toxic behavior. Like I said before, we often practice negative self-talk without even realizing it. So being able to point out the moments when you say, oh, I won't look good in this, or oh, why can't I look good in that like she does, and so forth and so on. It's really important to actually be able to identify with the fact that you just said something negative about yourself, because in order to, I guess you can say, fix the problem, you have to know that there is a problem, there is something wrong. And being able to identify this issue of negative self-talk is definitely your first step to fixing, or at least lessening, the badness. I'm sorry about my grammar, but lessening the badness, I guess you could say, of this particular pattern. And yeah, honestly, pointing it out and realizing it is very, very important, because in doing this, it also helps for you to realize that it's completely normal to have negative thoughts. Okay, even I said it before that we're all guilty of negative self-talk. You do it, I do it, we all do it. It's human to have negative thoughts because it is part of our emotions. And yes, we experience the positive emotions, but we also experience the negative emotions sometimes. And it's good to experience the negative emotions. It helps with emotional intelligence. It helps create balance in our lives. We can't always have all positive. Actually, that would be a little scary if we had all positive. Yeah, things going in that much harmony, that's very, very unnatural. So having balance is definitely, that's something normal, it's something human, that's something important to have. So yes, it's fine to have negative thoughts because it helps you grow to be a better person, because you can realize the negativity and you can work to improve on that. So it's normal and it's healthy to have these negative talks, so negative self-talks. So as long as it's not too much, as long as you're not constantly doing it to yourself, that would actually not be a good thing at all. Just every once in a while, I guess you could say, is perfectly fine. And it helps you to improve and become a better person and to move forward in whatever you want to do in life. So try not to do it too often, you know? And there's also this thing called toxic positivity, which I'm probably going to briefly discuss right now. But toxic positivity is like when you're having a negative thought and then all of a sudden you're like, no, stop, I'm not supposed to have this negative thought, I'm supposed to be thinking positively, and then saying that positive thought or saying that positive comment about yourself. That's actually not a good thing either, because I guess pushing down or suppressing the negative emotions is something that's very dangerous, because one day it could just all burst and it could all come out and something bad could actually happen to you and your mental health. So having these negative thoughts is not necessarily always a bad thing. It just depends on how much you do or how often it happens. And that can honestly lead to toxic positivity sometimes, when you try to suppress these negative thoughts, and you shouldn't be doing that. You should, as in the first step that I said, come to terms with the fact that you have these negative thoughts. You say, okay, I have these negative thoughts, like what's going on, how can I work on it, blah blah blah. But realizing it and realizing that it's okay to have negative thoughts sometimes and not to flow into toxic positivity. Now, next tip is turning those negative thoughts into compliments. Now, I know you may be thinking, girl, how do you do that? How do you turn negative thoughts into compliments, good compliments about yourself? Is that even possible? Yes, it is possible. I do this all of the time, and that's honestly what helps me with my negative self-talk. Turning those negative thoughts, those negative feelings into compliments about yourself. And I feel like it will probably be easier if I just explain it in an example. So let's say, back to the heels example, you see a pair of 7-inch stiletto heels that you really want, and you think, oh, I'll be too tall in those heels. Instead of saying that you will be too tall in those heels or look bad in those heels or whatever, try saying, these heels will add to my height. Well, quite literally it will, but you could also try, these heels will bring out my features, bring out my tall features. They will help bring out the long legs that I have. Okay, another example, instead of saying, why don't I look like her? You can try saying, my look is very unique. What works for her may not necessarily work for me, and vice versa. Or you can try, I am one of a kind and I will find what works for me. You see what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? So instead of trying to, I guess, bring yourself down, you can say, I appreciate my differences. I appreciate what makes me unique and what sets me apart from other people. And I am willing to work with that. And that's what really helps me change around my negative self-talk and how I feel bad about my height. Just turning those negative thoughts into positive comments about myself, and just use it as an opportunity to say what you love about being tall, what you love about your long limbs, what you love about your long arms, your long legs, long torso, long neck, whatever it may be. Just turning those negative comments into positive compliments about yourself, you know? And honestly, I feel like saying that sounds a lot like saying you should say positive affirmations, which actually is very important, I should say, because negative thoughts that we think about ourselves every day often stem from things that we hear over and over. Think about it. A lot of us feel bad about our body image because of all of the people and all of the pictures that we see over social media, whether their pictures are face-tuned and edited and stuff like that. We often feel bad about ourselves because we just keep seeing the same face or the same body type over and over as we're scrolling through social media, and we think, why does everybody look like that except me? Or even another example, different social media posts and videos saying the same things. Oh yeah, like tall girls would be dateable if they were shorter, or tall girls, we only date tall girls to get D1 babies, or tall girls just have size 13 men's Nike shoes and that's a reason why you don't want to go for them. And toxic friends and even bullies saying the same things. Oh yeah, you're too tall for this, too tall for that. You look like a freaky giant. I personally got that a lot. Looking like a freaky giant, but honestly, whatever. And even movies and TV shows saying or even showing the same things. Like, why does almost every girlfriend or wife or whatever, why does almost every woman have to be shorter than the guy? See what I mean? So we subconsciously pick up on the negative self-talk and the negative feedback to ourselves. So imagine the social media posts and the good friends and the TV shows that were saying and showing positive things, showing and saying positive things about tall girls, tall women. That would definitely turn things around. So we can help combat that negativity from the media and from the external factors in our friends by repeating the positive affirmations to ourselves on a daily basis, because the more we keep repeating it to ourselves, eventually the more likely we are to believe it, because that's how our brain works. We hear it over and over and over again, and we're more likely to believe it. We're more likely to remember it. It's more likely to stay in our subconscious because of the repetition. So positive affirmations definitely help. And I want to say, lastly, subscribing to A Tall Girls podcast. It will definitely help you with your negative self-talk. And also following me on all social medias for Tall Girl Positivity, for daily positive reminders and tips on how to be your best self. So if you want to get rid of those negative self-thoughts and self-talk and whatnot, positive affirmations, turning negative thoughts into comments, realizing that negative thoughts about yourself are normal, and listening to A Tall Girls podcast every single Thursday. Shameless plug. But I think I'm going to end it here. I hope that these tips helped you in any kind of way it can. And I just want to say thank you so much for listening this far into the episode. It really means a lot to me. And hit me up on my socials. They're linked in the description below. And just let me know what you think of this episode. All right. So I will see you in the next one. Good night and goodbye.